So there's this design studio that I really like. It's called CW&T, and they make a lot of like custom products, hardware products, and just I love the style of their things. I bought a lot of their stuff as gifts. I have their knife that's like a little utility knife. It's just a very minimal design. It has a magnetic feature so you can stick it onto something. I bought their jump rope, which I don't really use much because I don't like to have it hanging around because I have kids and these handles are like insanely heavy metal and I think it might be dangerous if they get their hands on it. But I bought their notebook, a few of the pens, a bunch of the stuff. Their most recent product called Superclock, and it's this clock. It's on Kickstarter and I love stuff like this. So I definitely backed it. I ordered one. And what it is a clock with no numbers on it and it's a 24-hour dial. So it goes around once per day. And you can put these little beads or like little dots in wherever you want to represent whatever you want. So instead of numbers, it has your own little markings. And they talk a lot on the Kickstarter page, very interesting. They talk about like some of the kind of philosophy about it. Like maybe you can put your sleep and wake time or other things related to your daily routine and kind of visualize them on this clock. It's kind of cool. And so I wanted to try it before I even got it. So I decided to make a software version of this clock. And that's what I'll show you today in this video. So down lower on the Kickstarter page, they have this link to a template that you could download and print to try visualizing your day on this kind of a dial. And I thought it would be cool to turn that into the actual clock. And so that's what I did. I recreated this drawing in Figma, exported it as an SVG, and then I built this little app around the SVG. So I added the hand, and this is a real hand that actually moves. If we zoom in, you can see it moving. And so I actually made it update once per second. It doesn't need to update that frequently because it's such a small amount of movement per second, but I wanted to be able to look in and see, like verify that it's actually moving. And you can click the dots to turn them on. So you can mark, whatever you want. Like this is maybe when I wake up and this is when I go to bed and maybe I eat lunch at noon. The dots that you click are saved in your browser's local storage. So if you reload the browser, they're still there. And that means you can close it and reopen it, and it's all local. It doesn't store anything on my server, and you can use it if you want. The URL for it is super-clock.wedeserveless.com, so it's live there if you want to play with it. There's little tooltips when you hover over one of these so that you can see what time it represents. It helps because there's a lot of dots, and you might get lost as to which one represents which time. There's a hover effect when you hover over a dot to show that those are interactive. And the touch area, always a pet peeve of mine, is when the touch area is too small for something. So there's a nice big region around the dots that you can click to activate it. And if I go into the code here, I can highlight those touch areas. So the way I did this is I actually drew these in Figma. It was a little bit tricky to draw this and break these apart, but these are individual shapes that are in the SVG. They just have no fill color, so they're transparent. They listen for the mouse over events. And one idea that I had after playing with this was I wanted to be able to click and drag to select multiple dots. And I thought that would be fun. And so I built that. And as soon as I built it, I realized there was a few details I needed to account for. One is if you select a few dots and then you, let's say, click on this one. Now I'm drawing dots. If I go back over the ones I've already drawn, I don't want it to delete those. If I go over other white ones, I want it to fill those in though. If I start on a black one, it does delete it. And so now I'm in like delete mode, and so it only deletes. So depending on which color dot you first click down on, it'll be in that mode of either drawing or deleting. The next thing I found is that I just had this urge to, run my mouse all the way around it and highlight everything. And I want to do it really fast. It's just kind of fun. But the problem was you'd have to be within this red area to activate the dots. So it was hard to kind of go fast while keeping my mouse there. And so now actually if you mouse down in one of the red areas, you can then move your mouse anywhere, inside or outside. And that was done by, instead of listening for events on each of these little red areas, by just looking at the angle represented by your cursor relative to the center point and seeing which dot falls within that angle. So now you can do it with your mouse anywhere. And the next thing that I had to deal with was whenever you set something up like this on a website, the mouse move events fire periodically as you're moving your mouse. So if you move your mouse fast enough, you might not get enough events to hit every dot. So you could click down here, move your mouse really quickly over here, and it might miss a few in between because it might register a mouse move event here, 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 but not at these spots. And so it would miss those. And this is something that is often overlooked in this type of a UI. But I really like it when the app works the way you think it should, even if you're like jamming on it really hard or going really fast or clicking really fast. And so what I did is made it so that when you move your mouse across, it stores the previous position of your mouse and the current position, and keeps updating those as you go across. And it looks at the distance between those. And if it's a distance that, it's actually not the distance on screen, but it's the angular distance, comparing the angles of where your mouse was. And so if that range of angles includes more than one dot, then we definitely missed one in between. And so it goes through and fills in the ones that you missed in between so that you can't ever miss them by moving your mouse too fast. So now you don't need to be within that little band, and you can move your mouse really fast. And so you can fill it all in really quickly, which is like not that important to do, but it's just fun. I mean, it's good if you want to erase what you have. So if you have a few different ones, you can just quickly do a little loop with your mouse and erase them all. And when I did that, I ran into one other problem where this top part here, as you come around, the angle is approaching 360 degrees. And then as you cross over this point, you're back to 0 degrees. So if you moved your mouse from here to here, it would highlight everything because you had just gone from 0 to 360. And so it filled in all the ones in between. So I had to add in some logic to detect for that case and make sure that it didn't do that kind of like wraparound. There's also a nice dark mode, which is real easy because there's only 2 colors in this UI. And the last thing that I did is another little Easter egg feature. If you use your scroll wheel on the mouse, you can move the dial. For some reason, I just wanted to see the dial move because it moves so slowly that if you're sitting there staring at it, you don't see much movement. And so I like to just be able to fiddle with it and scroll my mouse. And then it does a cool animation back to where it was because it doesn't really make sense for it to be in a position other than the actual time. So it animates back with a pleasing bounce. This works nicely on iOS as well. I tried it on my phone. You can do the same kind of swiping behavior to fill in the dots. And it scales nicely for different devices. It's basically just an SVG graphic. So it looks nice at any size. And you could leave it up on a screen somewhere if you wanted to have it kind of like ambiently displayed, or you can just bring it up when you need it, or you could just try it out one time just for fun. So definitely check out CW&T. They have a lot of cool designery products. And back the Kickstarter if you like the idea of this clock and you'd like to have a hardware version of it.